Welcome to another episode of Tanstwocents. Today's episode is titled Don't Get Got. And we're unpacking what it really takes to secure your infrastructure and to prepare for certifications like CMMC and ISO. Trust me, we will define all of these acronyms in this episode. I'm your host, Tanwilson, and today with us is Dondre Lawson, the founder and principal consultant at Emerald Technical Solutions. And he's going to help us separate between fact from fiction and when it comes to compliance prep in the GovCon world. Dondre, thank you for joining us here today and say hello to our listeners who we call the Intellectuals and tell them a little bit about yourself and your company and how you got into the business.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Ton. I'm Dondre Lawson. I'm the CEO and founder of Emerald Technical Solutions and the founder of Defense Interns, a nonprofit that rotates high school seniors through different defense contractors. I've been a nerd since day one. I've been working in technology since before I can remember. Joined the Army and learned a lot about technology, cybersecurity, networks, HF, RF, Inc. 1, Inc. 2, a lot of satellite stuff as well. And then decided to, after I came home from a deployment, decided to work for a large GovCon, which ended up pushing me to building Emerald Technical Solutions, cloud engineering, cybersecurity, MSP work, DevSecOps, software engineering, and anything in your digital infrastructure we can do. And we're pretty fast at it. And then aside from that, we're an 8A and SDVOSB as well.
Wow, that's a lot. And thank you for your service. I don't know if I knew that. So that's wonderful. And I just can't believe, you're calling yourself a nerd. You don't look like a nerd, but nerds come in all kinds, right?
Yeah, people think I'm a police officer, and I'm definitely not.
Yeah, you're one of the tough nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a really great background, and I know that you used a lot of acronyms in that introduction, and we'll kind of unpack that here in a little bit. But before we get too deep in this conversation, I want to kind of ask you, what's one of the weirdest or most ridiculous compliance myth or mistake that you've seen in the GovCon field?
People can get you compliant in one day,
Oh, you
right?
can't?
Um, let's say 3 days, right? The individuals at the Cyber AB, the individuals at in DoD cyber organizations have taken years and months to get a rule published. Tons of writing, tons of meetings, people, and then someone goes, "We can get you compliant in one day." Right? They may know all of the different assessment objectives. They may know the control families. They might even have it pre-written for you in a template. But then coming back and saying, "I can get this done for you in one day," I would avoid those people at all costs. Right? You should. Everyone should know if you are going for, if it's ISO certs, if any accreditation body, right? The same way if you study for a test, if you went to take your CASP or Security X, or you went to go take a cloud cert, you're gonna study for a couple of weeks, right? You're gonna implement things over time, so you can go and prepare to take that test. Similar to preparing for a certification of CMMC or ISO or any of the other things you need for your business, at least in the GovCon space, it's going to take longer than a day. And people are advertising like, "We'll get you compliant in one day, 50 grand, we got you." Um, Stay away from those people.
Must be a pretty long day because I don't even know how you can even do your due diligence and review everything you need to review, from that person's, perspective to make sure that it's, compliant, that, you've got everything. Like no one ever has everything that they need. Have you ever been in a situation where you go in and they're like, yes, you've got everything and you didn't have to search or get clarifications or corrections on things?
No, because everyone's environment is going to be different. Even if even if we build the same environment for two different people, the leadership is different. How people access the system may be different. How the documentation is written may be different, right? And as a technical implementer, we could have built it the same controls, right? every single time. And so when you look at an environment and you look at technical controls within an environment, you have to understand that it's different, right? And the people that are coming in the door, that it's a money grab for them because hey, I can do it immediately and quick. Like I would rather pay someone. I would rather it be slow and complete rather than fast and not complete, right? Even if you get the certification, even if you get certified and you pass, right? What happens if it's not there's a control that's not in place and then you run into an issue where you're now people's lawyers are getting involved or you're negligent or you're going to jail, right? Because you didn't implement things correctly and you push through, that's also a problem.
Yeah, I think I think sometimes people in this industry are a little myopic in how they perceive or consider um, the cost benefit of doing things faster versus slower, or like spending more money on it versus doing it themselves. And I think this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you. Is that you do post on LinkedIn, a lot of awareness, a lot of information for those in industry who may not be aware, and even for those of us who are a little bit more experienced and knowledgeable about some of these challenges and some of these pitfalls and things that you should be kind of concerned about, because I've got a hashtag out there called GovCon grifters, and you can almost add whatever you want in front of the grifter, and there's someone or some vendor out there who's trying to do this. And I hate to see those unexperienced or those new to the GovCon get taken advantage of by people who are just, like you said, money grabbing, right? Making promises that are just unrealistic.
Right. And so the government, the federal contractor space is like 250,000 people, right, or organizations that are in the DIBCAC, right? People that are construction businesses, people that are consulting businesses, financial companies. Not everyone's a tech business, right? But CMMC, ISOs, some of those business certifications that keep you compliant, your data safe, are really tech certifications. And so if you're a tech company, if you're a cyber company, this is a good time for you, right? You're going to make, as long as your processes are clear and you're not trying to screw people over, you're going to make
Mhm.
decent money during this time because you're going to have the responsibility to ensuring that someone's infrastructure is architected correct and that the controls are in place really to process, transmit, or store CUI information, right? The controlled unclassified information. I think what a lot of people are doing now is some people are getting scared too, and people also don't think that it's a rule. And it's funny that NIST 800-171 has been out literally, let's just say forever. It's been around for a long time, and now people are like, well, they've been saying for 4 years, 5 years that it's going to come out, it's going to happen, and it hasn't happened. But the rule is at right, like as of right now, August 1st, it is at OMB, right? OMB takes 60 days ish to publish something. Sometimes they'll get a 30-day extension, so it'll go to 90 days. When the rule gets published, your contracting officer could go, hey, if you're not compliant, CMMC, in 2 months, you're unfit to work on this contract, right? Because there's no time. They didn't come out with a timeline that says the contracting officer has to give you like 6 months. I would assume like if they like would assume if they like you and they want to add it, they want to do an amendment to the contract, they would then say you have 6 months to be certified, which is still a long time because you have to work in between everyone's certification timelines, right? And there's only 78 assessors,
Yeah,
C3PAOs for the entire industrial base of
gotta keep in mind,
250,000 people, right?
right?
So get after it. If you're a construction business, if you're a financial company, if you're a consultant and you don't work in IT, start doing your research, start looking around. If you're a small business, there are some options for you versus if you're a large business, but definitely go after it and get it done.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be a very timely discussion for our intellectuals. So let's just dive straight into our first segment, which is GCC is not a magic wand. You do need a plan. So, Microsoft provides some powerful tools, like GCC, and I'm going to ask you to, define some of these acronyms here. But these tools don't, just don't set themselves up. So talk to us about what people overlook when they think they're buying a GCC, that it's, compliance in a box, sort of say.
I think a lot of people go, hey, like, oh, we're gonna go with the Microsoft Government Cloud, right, or Government Community Cloud, and it's gonna turn all the controls on for us, right? It's gonna be secure. That is wrong. That is incorrect. There's 110 controls that you need to be compliant with for CMMC, and Microsoft will provide a FedRAMP high. If it's GCC high, it's moderate or high. They will provide the infrastructure for you to actually be able to place your control unclassified data in, but there's still controls that your team, someone has to turn on for you, right? And so for us, because I love interns, I love the kids, right? What we did was he said, hey, we need you guys to turn on these controls. This is how you do it. Go turn them on, and then we're going to come back and we're going to look at the documentation and policy behind it, right? Because Microsoft gives you there's a policy native tool that will tell you what you need to do in the tenant to turn on controls, right? Um, and you got to be technical enough to architect it, to build it and turn it on. But slapping GCC on your problems or GCC high on your problems isn't going to just solve everything. And Google does it too, right? Google has their certified cloud, right? There's people that are doing assessments, but if I can go into the assessment and I can download data from it, I'm essentially downloading CUI. So it should be one way. I should be able to upload data into the system and view it at a specific time frame, not be able to download it at any particular time, even if it is my data, because I may not be now operating or looking at the data on a system that is approved to store, hold, or transmit the CUI. So there's a lot of misconceptions. Microsoft isn't going to come out and give you this information. It's going to say, yeah, you should use GCC or GCC high. It will get you to the compliance that you need, right? And a lot of large organizations, you'll see like if they comment, and I'm not gonna say any names, but if you see a .us address in their emails, right, they're operating in that space already. But each of those licenses are costly, right? You're looking at $1,500 plus for the license, and then you have to work through a reseller in order to actually have the license, and then you need to apply to Microsoft Azure government portal and actually get a tenant spun out for you by that person or by Microsoft, and then Microsoft still has to check that you're a business, you have a cage code, you have a UEI number, all those things just to get into the environment. And then once you're in the environment, you got to start turning on the controls inside of the environment to actually make it compliant. And so many people just don't understand that. And it's unfortunate because the rule is like, I'm not going to say it's coming, it's here. And people just still don't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot to take in, especially if you're not technically savvy, or I still encounter people who can't use Teams or don't understand, like how their emails work, and different things like that. And there is this misconception. I would have thought, there are a lot of controls, but I have kind of seen that there are certain things sometimes Microsoft decides to turn on. Other times, it's there, but it's not turned on, and different things like that. So, do you have like a checklist, or do you propose, like, is there a place where someone can get a checklist of, like, at a minimum, if you operate in this industry, or if you provide this type of services, you should consider, like X, Y, and Z? Because, like you said, like we said at the beginning of this episode, there are people who work in different industries, right? There's the construction, there's IT, there's staffing, like, and then what about people like myself, right? Like, I'm a B2B. I work with companies who work in the government sector, but I don't work in the government sector. So what should companies like myself consider, or be aware of when it comes to this type of, compliance in a box?
So a lot of questions there.
I
So
know.
the first question is, hey, is there a checklist? If you Google, right, and the answer is no. If you Google, what's a checklist for me to complete CMMC? The controls are out there, right? Like the controls, the 110 controls and 17 control families. That's public knowledge, right? That's public information. But is someone going to tell you how to turn on each control specifically? Is someone going to tell you about how you should word and or build, your response and how you're actually meeting that control? No. Is someone going to tell you about the um, is someone going to tell you about um, the policies that you need in place to meet those controls and how the policy should be written? No. Someone's going to tell you, I'm a consultant. I got you. This is how much it's going to cost, right? Even for us, like same thing. Like I'm not going to. That's information that we've had to pay for, right?
Yeah.
That my people has had to go through training for, in order to get certified. And so we invested the money. Why would we give some of the information for free? Right? And there's all sorts of different groups of people that have enclaves you can go inside. Some of those enclaves are, some of them are okay, and I know we're going to talk about that later, but that's for the first question. The second question is, if you have a need to process CUI, if you work on a government, I literally just got an email from one of our largest and said, hey, something was released on SAM, but it indicates that there is CUI inside of this RFP that was released. Please, I can't send it to you. You got to open it on your own. And that's a very uh, risk mitigative
Yeah.
it's a risk mitigative way to not have CUI spillage, right? Because if you're not in a system, you shouldn't be able to process that CUI. What does this mean for all the contractors right now that are like, well, am I going to get in trouble if I
Mhm.
download it to my computer and look at it? Like, what am I supposed to do if we don't have an enclave, or if we're not in a space where we can process those things? What am I supposed to do? And that's like literally no one can answer that question. Or like, you need to have an enclave, or you need to do this, or you need to go on a government machine and go look at it, right? For us, if you're in, like for me, we're on a couple contracts where we have an AVD, which is Azure Virtual Desktop, into the Army. So I can get into a NIPR environment if I need to look at something, if I didn't have my own CUI enclave that
Uh,
we built inside of Microsoft, right? So
yeah.
that's the second question. The third question is, hey, I'm Tan. I help businesses grow and develop in the GovCon space. Do I need to be CUI compliant? The answer is no, you don't, unless you're looking at CUI. And then in that case, if you're working for a large or somebody, I would just hope that if you're like, you're and I try not to name names of other businesses, right,
Right.
so I don't get sued. But if you're working for another large, that technical team should say, hey, your external BD person, Tom, that you have coming in here to do work with us, they should really give you an account inside of an enclave, right? They should really make you an email and a place where you can help them out to view things and not put it on you, because then that would cost you, you know, X amount of money. Let's just ballpark it between 25 and 50K. And if that was the case, I would say, well, the price went up now, right?
Yeah.
If you want to work with me now, the price is going to increase, because if you want me to be able to process, store, and transmit CY on my own, I'm going to charge you more money, because now you're asking me to change the scope of the contract that we have in the first place.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm going to stop that segment right there because, like, you just gave me a justification for why I need to increase my rates. Because I do bring all of our consultants in house. So yes, I like to be able to control and restrict accesses to things. So security and accesses on my side is very important too. So again, no, people, I'm not going to increase my rates. My rates are competitively where they are, but um, just putting everyone on notice. So let's head into segment two, which are MSPs. You can't get you to the Super Bowl, but if they've never been. So let's talk about why it's dangerous to have a service provider who doesn't understand um, SPRS scoring, NIST, or ISO. Again, lots of acronyms in there. So, like, let's kind of unpack that a little bit.
Right. So this is a great question because there's hundreds of thousands of people that are in the world today that use MSPs or
Right?
managed service providers or managed service security providers, right? MSSP, and I believe that's how you say the acronym. And I personally think it should be the same thing. Like if I'm your MSP, I can do your security for you as well. And so we have an arm of our business that is specifically for MSP work, right? And that work is rough. It's more rough than the government side because there's people submitting tickets, someone's computer, someone always has issues on top of all of the baseline level cybersecurity controls that we put on everyone's devices, right? Oh, I can't download this program. Why not? Or I'm getting a user access control prompt. Why can't I do this stuff? Because you don't have admin privileges, and it's not those applications you try to install aren't approved from your leadership on an application list, right? I think there's a lot of MSPs out there that, and if they're looking at this, right, the way how you guys increase your costs and the way how you can be better for your customers is learning about CMMC, learning about ISO
Yeah.
27001, knowing how to put together a network diagram, whether it's just like, here are the different things on our network, and this is how they flow, or having a more detailed network diagram with like the ports, the procedures, the IPs, right, or inside of the environment, or having someone that understands how to architect these things, right? Because what's going to happen if you're an MSP right now and your customer is a government contracting business, what is going to happen is they're going to go, hey, I need to be certified. I need to be a level one company or CMMC level one, which a lot of people are going after, 17
Yep.
controls, a couple of 17 controls, both technical and non-technical controls. And a lot of people are like, what's SPRS? Uh, what is the score I need to do? What is the self assessment? What are all these things? And if that MSP doesn't know, like most businesses, right, like a Ton or Dondre, we're gonna go, oh, we're gonna figure this out. Let's go figure it out. But if you try to figure it out and you're wrong and you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna run into an issue. And really, what I try to tell everybody is you want to stay away from I want to stay away from lawyers. I don't need, my own lawyer scares me, right? I don't want to have any issues with any legal teams anywhere, period, end of story, right? And so if you go and you put in a contract, hey, yep, we can get you certified, we can get turn these controls on, and you don't do it, then you're running into an issue where you're like, well, now we're still not where we need to be as an organization for compliance, and we went and we paid you a bunch of money, right? Like, what's going on? And I've seen pricing for MSPs that are good pricing, right? And some that are outrageous, right? Like some people are paying MSPs $120,000 a year, and they're a 40-person company, and 20 of the people have devices. The other 20 of the people, or 10 of the people have devices. The other 20 other people are on site, right? They work on a physical contract. Why are you paying those people $100,000 a year?
Yeah.
What are they doing for you, right? And now you're locked into that contract, and MSPs, like, even for us, right? We are in the process. Our C3PAO audit is this month, right? And so when we pass, yes, we know the information. Yes, I have trained CCAs and assessors. Yes, half of the people in my company have a CISSP and we're cyber people, but I still can't go to you and be like, hey, look, uh, we got you. We can get you in. We
Hmm.
can do this stuff. We can preset it, but I can't sell it to you until it's set in stone, right? I could be projecting, right, like how we all project for
Yeah.
contracts that we're going after the pipeline. Right, I could put people in the pipeline, but what's going to really start screwing people over is contracting officers putting it in contract, and or right, if you're you're one of the big BD people in the game. If you're tracking contracts like maps that are coming out, ACC came out and said CMMC
Hmm.
level 2 is a requirement, and
Yep.
we will not post this contract until it is a published rule. So we're just going to wait. We're going to wait. We're going to wait until it's a published rule, and then we're going to publish a contract. And you can't even bid on it if you're not level one certified. And to get awarded, you need to be level two. And I bet you the window of time that they put out to respond to it, it's going to be like 3 weeks, right? It's going to be like 2 3 weeks, and everyone's going to be like, oh, this is I don't know if I'm going to get on it because we're not even prepared. We're not even at the point because our MSP told us that we were good and we're actually not good, right? We're actually not okay, right? There's a ton of for MSPs or for companies using MSPs. There's a ton of CCAs that are floating around, right? And that's CMMC certified assessors, right? And there's CMMC certified practitioner. There's a ton of assessors floating around that will just charge you on a 1099 basis to help you get your documents in place, right? Not an RPO, just your lone wolf cowboys and cowgirls out there that will help you as an organization,
Sounds
and that would be my
sounds like a
recommendation.
really great sounds like a really great idea. Like to get, organized and stuff. So are there just real quick, are there just like how in banking and in like attorneys, there's those that are really good in GovCon. You want a GovCon attorney, you want a GovCon banker, you want a GovCon person who understands that. Are there MSPs who specialize in that? Because, it's not a no it's not a new industry, it's not a new service that is out there, but I find that sometimes people who don't work in the govcon sector or this industry that we work in, they really don't understand the nuances and the kind of things that we need to abide by versus someone who's in the commercial sector.
I think I think for the longest time, like I might even do it too. Like if we were in a tech company, we
Yeah,
might also have probably would have done the same thing. Like, oh man, we have all these unmanaged laptops. Tan and her team, they got MacBooks. We got another team. They want Linux devices. We got Windows devices. We got outdated iPhones. We need an MSP. And so what does everyone do? They go MSP near me, best top MSPs on a Google. They go look for the company, right? And now you're like, all right, I found an MSP and they're going to work with me. That was okay, right? The people got your devices, hopefully in the tenant, hopefully joined, automation turned on, for the device security, endpoint security, right? Training for your staff, teaching people about phishing emails and what
yeah,
you should do and all those things, right? That's fine. That was fine. If you're a GovCon person and you need an MSP and you have a bunch of people with devices, I promise you, you will fail with your current MSP if they are not versed in knowing about CMMC, knowing about ISO 27001 and doing the thing, right? And so for us, for Emerald, we saw a business opportunity. I have two 20-year-olds that probably can list off 90% of the controls for CMMC by hand. Like they know because they have been continuously
yeah,
responsible for implementing these controls, right? And different people's tenants, whether it's commercially, if they're doing the level one or if they're doing it in the tenant, that's what they've been working on all day long, right? And so for us, and I give away a little bit of sauce, this is like promoting, right? When we go into an organization and we go, hey, your commercial tenant is trash, right? It's not managed. You have the wrong licenses for stuff. You're doing this the wrong way. Then we come back and go, looks like this is the right way. Oh, and by the way, while we're here, we're going to make sure we turn on the 17 or the 15 controls we
yeah.
can get turned on and for level one without having you to do any documentation. And then we're going to come back and start asking you questions so we can help you build the documentation, right? And that is MSP, right? At its level, your commercial tenant is a level one. You know that there's controls in place to stop for those things, and then we can talk about your options for level two, right? Which I won't say because that's how you make money. But what are your level two options, right? How do you get prepared for that? If I'm an RPO, right, which is a registered practitioner organization, they're supposed to be the people that's helping out with getting you ready for the assessment, getting you ready to go see the
Mhm.
C3PAO. Those are the individuals who are supposed to help you. And a lot of those people also are just, they're out, they're just, it's a money grab. It's out, everything is a money grab. Yes, we're going to make money, but the industrial, the DIB, right, and supply chain issues is actually a problem. If you're security company A and you work at the NSA and you have, schematics of buildings, you have, the camera system, rotation schedules for people, and you're not compliant or your infrastructure is not where it needs to be, you are at risk of letting information that could be really, if we talk, when you get your security briefing, if
Mhm.
this information gets to an adversary, this could be critical, this could be grave damage to the national security, right? That's what you're doing. And so that's why the DIPCAC, cyber AB people are so focused on making sure this becomes a rule, because there has
Yeah.
to be compliance within the supply chain, and there isn't right now.
Yeah. No, exactly. Um, yeah, there's a couple of things. I shamelessly promote if you'd like throughout this entire thing. I welcome it, so I think that's fantastic. So intellectuals, reach out to Dondre afterwards. We'll make sure that you get his contact information. And secondly, too, I've got a 22-year-old nephew who just graduated from UTSA cybersecurity, so I might actually send you his way because the boy should be getting into some of this if he's not already in there. So but yeah, this is a really great time for these college grads and these kids who are entering into this industry right now.
It definitely is. I think, at least for our interns, like day one, everyone's terrified because they're like, oh,
Yeah,
I have to go work with a bunch of different CEOs or C-suite level people, and we're like, hey, this isn't that environment. We want you to learn. We want you to sit here and understand and know things. And the hardest thing that I have had to do in my career is try to tell other defense contractors that they should hire 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds. That's the most difficult thing I've had to ever do this far. And people are like, why do I need an intern here? We're good. We're okay. The intern's good for getting us coffee. They are not good for getting coffee. You got interns that are building out full applications with Claude and then trying to go get seed round funding for it, right? Like
yeah,
the people are, AI and some other things are starting to make people smart.
yeah. No, exactly. It's a brave new world, and I'm super excited about it. So let's move into segment three. So now you're in GovCon, right? Now what do you do? So many new companies, and there's still new companies, every day jumping into GovCon. Maybe this year, maybe less. I don't know. It's a new administration, so it's a brave new world. But they jump into GovCon without setting up their infrastructure, like you said. Why is it a problem to still be using, and this is the bane of my existence, Gmail, or hosting through like a Wix or a Namecheap? Like it just, uh, I can't believe it, but I know people still do it, and I kind of know the obvious answer. But what is your answer to that? Why is this, why is this still a problem?
I think back in the day, let's just go back like 4 years. People were like, I need an email. How what like if especially like the CEOs that are like very cost benefit analysis type people are like, well, a regular
Cheap.
Gmail account cheap. There you go. I try to give the professional version of cheap, but hey, they're being cheap and they're like, I need Google, right? I need to use Google, and I'm just gonna do a regular Gmail account, right? I have no SPRF, I have no DKIM key locations, right, which are just like encryption keys for your email. I have no protection. There's no quarantine filters, no spam filter set up. I can't report anything, right? It is just open Gmail, right? I don't even like my personal Gmail. Like
I hate
I
my
don't
person. I hate it.
I don't
I
even like using it. And there's nothing against, and again, I don't want to get sued, right? It's nothing
I
against
know.
Google.
Google, please do not come and complain.
Do not come after me, please, or I will go out like John Wick, right? But if you guys are, if that's what people are doing, and a lot of people are, the problem that happens is is, let's say you start at Google, you win a contract, you get 5 people, you give them Google emails. You win another contract, you get 20 more people, you give them Google emails. Now all your data, all your emails, and everything lives inside of Google. So when things like CMMC and this 800 come around, you're like, well, I got to migrate this because this is rough. Email migrations, and any, I will fight any tech person on this.
Huge.
Email migrations historically have been uh, just disgusting, right?
Awful.
Awful, right? Like somebody's important folder didn't get transferred, like backing up PST files. If you haven't been archiving your stuff, it takes, I got 50 gigs in my inbox.
Or
Like someone has
days.
to copy that, right? It takes days to get that stuff copied, and you're like, all right, this is crazy. Like, what is going on? And so that happens, and you really put your place in your organization inside of an environment that isn't going to allow you to really kind of like grow and blossom and bloom in GovCon. It goes back to like the websites, right? We built our website by ourselves, right? Like me and my CTO built the website, right? Because back in the day, we were doing web development. So WordPress, right? I'm gonna give away more free sauce for viewers. There's WordPress and there's ThemeForest. You can go to ThemeForest and you can literally create an account and you can search for templates for your business, right?
Oh,
And you can put that template, you can upload it into WordPress, and it will build it for you. You got to go to every web page and build out stuff. But if you just need a 1 or 2 pager website, right, or something like that that looks professional, that's what you should do. Yes, sure, there's Wix, there's Squarespace, right? If you're selling flowers, right, or if you're selling like T-shirts, build a website on Wix. If you're selling DevSecOps to the Navy, if you're selling C2 integrated systems to the Army, if you're selling naval parts to submarines to the Navy,
you might
don't
want to
build a
think your
website on
choices.
Wix, right? Like
Right.
pick a different choice. And unless you come into GovCon and you have a customer, let's say, and this happened to me, right? I left the large prom I was working at. The next week, I had an email from CSA about a facility clearance and a subcontract, right? And I was like, I'm leaving. I'm gonna start my own business. And I was so integrated with my customers when I left. They were like, Dondre cannot go anywhere. Like the guy cannot leave. Where is he going? Be competitive. Keep
Right.
him. Like he
Right.
started his own business, and the customer was like, "Well, let him come in here and work as a subcontractor, right?" And so that's been the process, right? The step process to get here. Unless you're in that scenario where it's like I quit one day, I quit on Friday, and on Monday I'm my own contractor, and you need to do stuff fast, right? To get stuff up fast, you can still do that, right? But in the meantime, in the background, make sure you're building these things, right? First impressions last forever, right?
Yeah.
I had a crappy website up. It was not okay, and I needed to change it, right? We've changed it 3 times, and I still don't think it's the best, but it is good for where we are, right? We could do better with it, but
Yeah.
as a tech company, right? Like if I'm
Yeah.
selling technology to you and you go to my
It should look
website
slick.
and
Yeah.
it looks great, you're gonna be like, okay, this is people I need to work with. If it looks crazy, you're gonna be like, I'm not doing business with them, not at all. So those first impressions last, and then people getting into spaces with these technologies that are commercialized are wrong, right? One more line. Give the listeners some more free sauce. GoDaddy, right? Go to GoDaddy and search your business name.us, right? That's what you do. You do that first, and you can go into GCC first. Yes, it costs more money, but it's ultimately in the end, if you're if you're trying to scale and grow your business, so you're a 300-400 person company, and you have a good relationship with a reseller, you can start with day one with your emails inside of a Microsoft GCC environment with a .us address. So it could be Dondre at emeraldsolutions.us,
Yeah.
right? I'm at a .tech domain commercially, and let me tell you, it has taken a long time. So my emails don't get blocked by spam. It just happened. We submitted an RFI and it got blocked, and then I didn't get a response from the customer. And I was like, "Hey, did you guys get did you get the RFI that we sent?" Like, no, we didn't. And I'm still having an issue sending them the RFI because it's coming from
That
that
too.
email address. So
Yeah.
now I'm going to go and send the RFI to them through our CUI tenant, which is at a .us address,
Yeah.
because we're running into those issues, right? Am I going to change my commercial tenant? Absolutely not. It's already in Microsoft. If it was in Google, and we were in Google, we started in Google, and I migrated, and I'm passionate about it because there's so much misinformation
Yeah.
out there about what people need to do, and it's rough.
So I don't want to belabor this, this topic, but it is really important because I do work with some, we don't work with the emerging small companies. They're just too small. They don't understand. I'm not patient enough. I'm not the most qualified person, to kind of walk them through that. That's what Apex accelerators are for. That's what SCORE is for. Plus, I'm too expensive to be hiring me to kind of, like walk you through this. Yes, I am a little high maintenance.
I
But
didn't. You said it.
I totally said it. But I've actually turned down work from people who want me to use, Google, or they want to use, their Google Drives and stuff like that. I'm like, no, I don't. If it's not in Microsoft, environment, it doesn't exist in my world. I will bring you into my environment. That way, I can, ensure security, compliance, like version control, like the whole slew of the reasons why you should do this. But I've been in business for 20 years this October. I have never had my email on a Gmail account. I went out straight and bought my domain before I even had a customer. And back then it was difficult. You had to go to register.com, and now GoDaddy is there. And like what's really kind of cool is if you go to Microsoft and you want to buy and create, like your own email, and like an enterprise type of email, it's so easy to buy it through Microsoft now because they have this partnership with GoDaddy. And so, like, I totally agree. Like, you can totally do this and look very professional, and still be kind of secure about this. But the one thing that I do, just really quick, one last question is, I know that there are some companies that have a at theirdomain.com email address, but it's being managed or run through Google. Like, how and why would you want to do that versus just buying a domain on GoDaddy or Microsoft and running it as a like an enterprise type of email?
Do you're let's say the one of the BD champions of GovCon, right? Let's put you on the BD Mount Rushmore, right? So when you go to do business with a different size company, let's say I'm 1,000 people, and I go, I really need someone to come and help us learn about this different stage of business. And you're like, okay, you know what plan to walk them down. They might go, we have tons of work with this type of customer, or like, I'm a DoD person. I got 300 people with the Army, 300 people with the Navy, 300 people with FedSim, 300 people over on a GSA contract, right? And you're like, okay, if you want to do business development at this level, this is how time would do it for you, right? You know how to walk that person through your steps. You have all this intellectual property about how you do business development, how you guys do those things, right? Would you say that's correct?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's a similar thing to, if I go to Google and I go start a business, the first thing is going to come back. People go, hey, you start a business, you need a website, right? I've already gone through EIN, insurance. I've already gotten a cage code. That stuff's done. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying front facing stuff. I need to start a business. All right, cool. Google, I want to start my business. I kind of want to share my screen and see what it says, right? Like, Google, I want to start my business, and I bet you Wix, Squarespace, and GoDaddy are going to pop up as Google things being advertised, right? What happens is that now if you go to Squarespace and you create a website, right, it tells you, hey, we can also build your we can also give your email with this website,
Yeah,
right? And so
I get.
now what's going on and happening is now you're stuck because Squarespace has a partnership with G Suite, and it will build a G Suite email for you at like $6.25. Now you're like, cool, I got my website, I got my G Suite up, I'm good to go, right? And you don't even know what you're doing. And I'm not going to say it's wrong because it depends on the type of business you are. If you're a construction business, construction company, and you're a
Yeah,
sub to people in the government world, who cares, right? But again, if you're selling DevSecOps, cybersecurity, BD services to large government organizations, you need to understand that you should go and you should get a domain first, right?
yes.
And then you should go and take that domain. You can go to Microsoft. They're going to create a .on Microsoft account for you, and you're going to go in the domain security settings. You're going to add that domain. You're going to add the text record, the C name, and the MX record for that domain. And now you're going to own the .on Microsoft domain and your actual domain, right, for your
Yep.
company. That is step one. That literally should be step one, right? Step two, after that, after you do that, then you go to a WordPress and you go, I already own a domain, and you do the same thing, the records and stuff on the domain to then say, I own this. This is what I want to do, right? You know how many people go to buy a domain through GoDaddy, and GoDaddy puts them inside of their tenant, and
Oh,
it's
I
called
know. I
it's a
Yeah.
federal GoDaddy tenant. And now what happens is your entire suite is stuck in GoDaddy. And GoDaddy, yes, they have some security permissions. Yes, they have some email permissions, but you're not getting the full Microsoft suite of tools like you would get if you use the E3 or E5 license. And the enterprise 3 and 5 licenses have a bunch of different security features for someone's tenant. And so what happens is now you're like, oh, we need quarantine scanning and spam filtering and some of these
Yeah.
other additional technologies on our email, and you can't do it.
Yep.
And then you have to go and call GoDaddy. You gotta download your mailboxes. Your all your mailboxes have to be downloaded, and it depending on the tool you're using, you might got to do it manually. Who knows how many mailboxes you have, right? You got to download all that stuff manually, and then you got to go defederate from GoDaddy. You got to bring the domain back inside of your Microsoft tenant, the .on Microsoft tenant that you own, and then you got to ensure and hope to God that whoever is doing the migration for your emails knows what they're doing, because if they don't, they're going to mess it up, right? And you're going to lose some data. And so it's a problem because it's easy and it walks you through right what you need to go to.
Yeah.
I was talking
Well,
to it. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I think we've just created another podcast episode is like how not to get screwed by GoDaddy and like third party
Well, we don't want to
domains.
get sued.
Look at me, like making friends everywhere, right? I called out Google, I just called out GoDaddy. I might have to have like a throwdown between the two of them,
And
and
there's,
then bring in
there's nothing
Microsoft to,
wrong.
round it all out.
There's nothing
Um,
wrong with those services. It's just it's not for GovCon, right? Like
yep,
if we created the GovCon Bible, right? Like, and there's people that are probably trying to do it, but if we said, hey, this is the GovCon Bible, step one, create a business. In that first chapter, you're gonna be told what exactly you should be doing to be presentable to the government, and not even just the government, like other contracting other contractors, like other large businesses, like what should you do just to be not attractive, because that's really that sounds weird, but like so they want to work with you, right?
So, good idea. Here's the thing. I, I'm gonna pretty much go on record right now. I am gonna write the GovCon Bible book. And one of the chapters and one of the 10 commandments will be managed service providers and like how to actually get your business, your front side business marketed. So you can be part of one of the chapters in the book. So let's do that. I think that would be fun. But
Let's do it.
In all seriousness, we need to kind of roll on to the next segment because I love this next segment, which is AI can't save you. That would be a cannot save you. So I know I'm this way. I know you are. A lot of the young folks are. As like everyone is leaning into AI, thinking it's going to solve all of their compliance issues. God knows they think that it's going to solve all of their proposal writing issues and challenges, which is, what I get faced with every day. But what's the right way to use AI without kind of getting yourself into trouble? Because I've kind of used AI, Perplexity in particular, to kind of replace Googling or searching for an answer to some things, and sometimes it's spot on, and other times we all know it likes to hallucinate. It kind of gives you a very generic type of, unless you prompt it properly. But what are your thoughts about AI and compliance?
Um, Garbage in and garbage out.
Yeah.
Um, I could also go back to Google, right? Like some people are trying to use Microsoft's AI Azure Studio for data, and some of the data files that are set by Google, right? Like how they do the Google Sheets and things like that doesn't read like it's supposed to read, right? The problem is, especially in GovCon, right? And I'll list the company because I'm friends with the owner, right? So PSAI, Procurement Sciences AI, they have people that have won massive contracts with proposal writing with their tool, right? And so now what happens is they go, well, if Ton and Dondre have this tool and they're doing it and they're winning contracts, we're going to do it and we want to win contracts. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yep.
If you start with a large language model and you want a generative feedback from AI and you're trying to figure out what you want to use it for, what is your use case? Hey AI, I need to ask you questions about a specific technology, right? I need to ask you questions about, how can I do Microsoft or how can I do Ansible playbooks and put them inside of an AWS environment or Azure environment and be able to manage physical endpoint devices in a hybrid environment. How do I do that, right? And it may start giving you some answers and things about what you should do, and that's fine, right? The use case for AI should and can help you depending on what you want to do. I know that there's a bunch of companies that are doing um, like AI app, like CMMC apps, right? That have been
Oh,
built by
okay.
AI, right? Like Claude. Listen, if you go to Claude and you go Claude, I want to build an app called the GovCon Bible, right? And you list out what you want it to do, but I want it to be like a walkthrough of an RPG video game. It's it literally will start building for you, right? If you tell it what colors you want, how you want it to look, it will build it for you. Half of the world's developers are like, do it with AI, right? Large companies are like, hey, AI is solving issues for us. We don't need junior developers, we don't need code analysts, right? It's doing it for us. And then the other half of the world's like, the code that it's writing is garbage and will eventually break on you, and you won't know how to fix it because you didn't write it, the computer did, right? And so that's another issue as well. I think people go, I need to use AI to write these policies, and some of it's fine, right?
Yeah.
Like, or you write the policy and you ask AI to rewrite it for you because maybe you suck at writing. Like
Or
I don't know,
evaluate it or make it better. Yeah. Like it's good for
make it
ideas,
better,
it's
right?
good for reviews.
Exactly, right? Like think about Grammarly for a second. Tons of people use Grammarly. It's a good product. Is Grammarly approved in a CUI workspace? No one know, probably not, right? It's a commercial tool. Grammarly isn't. They should, right? If I was their sales team, I'm like, hey, we need to go into a federal market. We need to be in the we
They
need to
really do.
FedRAMP shit like it. You need to FedRAMP Grammarly because there's tons of people that don't know how to talk and or write, right? And so now, if you notice, it's Grammarly with AI, right? it's the same thing. They've been doing the same thing. Just adding AI to it now is like, well, now people are like, I'm using AI and I'm writing stuff with AI, and okay, that's fine, but are you really using AI? Is it or is it just good code, or is it just good software or good software engineering? I think people still don't understand what AI is, right? Like, there's all different types of it's multifaceted, right? Of what use case you can get out of using AI, but a lot of people just still don't understand it. They're like, I don't, oh yeah, I got Chat GPT. I use it to write emails and stuff like that. You got other people like, hey, we needed to build a couple of specific modules inside of this app, and we use Claude, right? We use Claude, and it did it for us, and it worked, and it's working, right? We use Claude to build this app, and we're now taking it to investors to get funded. Real, like, we're doing something that's not real, right? That's like non-fictional. We're going fictional, right? Like, we're swapping, and we're doing that. And that's what I would say about AI.
Yeah, it's funny because I think everybody likes to think that they use AI, and I think it's hilarious that you mentioned that everybody likes to put AI at the end of something or add it on to like a module, or just kind of like do that. It's just like an eye-catching type of thing. But I like the fact that it's not like a one tool for it's kind of almost like a one tool for everything type of like type of tool, because you could use it for I use it for ideation, other people use it for writing. There's so many different things. I wish I were smart enough to kind of use it for coding. I've got like app ideas like all the time, and so now that my nephew has graduated from UTSA, I'm going to be using him so much to like come up with all of these, like, hey, make this idea work for me. um, but I think it kind of opens up more doors than actually closes doors for people, which is,
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, there's the people that are scared of AI, the people that are saying, "Oh, it's going to turn into a robot and kill everyone."
yeah,
Maybe
they
not.
don't
Maybe not
understand.
in our lifetime. Maybe in 30, 40 years, or 50 years. But I think the world is becoming more fast, more agile, and people are solving issues quicker because of AI, right? Like
Yeah,
self-driving cars, rockets that land themselves, people having successful, like, procurement sciences AI, when they wrote their first contract for an external company with the AI tool, and it worked, and they won, and it converted into real money. That's There's a use case now. There, like, it's there. Like, what else can we do to continue to win? If you're in the GovCon space, right? I like the reason why government, you know this again because you're on the BD Mount Rushmore. Um, the government knows that people are using AI, right? And so what's happening right now? You got to come in here, and you're doing orals, right? Come in.
mhm.
I listen. You guys said you can do this development. Cool. Send us your developers. You guys wrote a wonderful proposal,
We want to
but
hear it
we're
from
gonna put
them.
room for 8 hours and see what happens. And if it's close to what you wrote in the proposal, you got it, you won. Or we'll evaluate people, and then you'll win, right? But if you can't do that, or you can't find people to do that, it now becomes an issue, right? Because you're like, well, we could do all this stuff, and you can't talk about it in a proposal, right? It's just like people interviewing. I had someone, a couple of, like, maybe my second year of business, they interviewed and said, I'm a senior systems engineer. And I was like, okay, you got VMware on here, you got Citrix on here, you got some network infrastructure on here.
Looks
I said,
beautiful.
hey, I actually some stuff over here. It would be cool if you could, like, you got all day, right? Or like as long as you want to stay. Like, it would be great if you could, cluster these two VMs, put a VMware hypervisor on them, put a couple virtual machines on them, and do that stuff, right? And I think the government is now switching to that. Like, hey, If I'm the government, and this might not be good for GovCon, but if I'm the government, I'm gonna have a proposal lab, right? I'm gonna invest money. If I'm like the VA or I'm some massive company, we have a proposal lab. And what happens now is if anybody comes in, just like incubator tech labs, if anyone comes in and goes, we can do that, I'm gonna go, hey, go over there, and you guys got through the first phase. The second phase is having your people go downstairs in our proposal lab, and you guys are gonna sit at they're gonna sit at terminals and they're gonna work. Right, just like how cyber ranges are, we're gonna have a proposal range, or excuse me, orals range. I'm telling you, coin this, right? Coin this right now. It's going to happen. We have an orals range now, and if you can actually do the work, we have a small infrastructure set up, and we're going to test you. And if your people pass, you guys win, right?
Yeah.
That's what's happening because the government and large contractors still have to verify that you can do what you say you can do, right? How do I verify that Tan is Tan? She's on the Mount Rushmore for BD people. How do I verify that? What do you go? Well, here are my references. Here's the amount of money that I've won in the past. Here are the contracts that I've won. Here's the places I've done capture for. My business development methods and metrics are exemplary compared to other people, and that's why I'm pricey, right? Okay, those are good metrics, but for tech people responding to, and most of the contracts are coming out are tech stuff. Most of the stuff is coming out is for tech, for AI, advancing the AI. And if you say you can do it, show us. I'll demo it for me right now, and let me see what you guys can do. And that will also, unfortunately, it will shorten, it will minimize the amount of contractors, but it will strengthen the group of contractors that are federally available for the government, because all those people are gonna be like, we can do it. We can physically actually go in here and do it.
I totally agree, and there's a couple of things. Whether you love Doge or not, the idea and the premise behind efficiency, about cutting waste and things like that, like no one should need to argue against that. It was the approach, the delivery, the how it was executed, which I think really muddied and kind of caused a lot of controversy in all of this. But from day one, from when I started my business, companies come to me and be like, hey, I've got an 8A. Can you help me get, like sole source contracts and stuff like that? And my first response is, no, I can't. Because we work in the competitive space. You need to prove to me that you're capable, not just because you have whatever certification that's out there. Yes, that's great, but you haven't proven to me that you're capable of doing that, that you are the most qualified person. And so I do kind of feel like the current contracting environment is very much kind of like a Hunger Games thing. It's like Hunger Games, right? It's like you're going to put everybody into an arena, and like the best will survive. The cream will rise to the top. The people who are able to actually demonstrate value and competencies and capabilities are going to survive into like the next consecutive years. So I love oral presentations. I love anytime when you can demonstrate and show me, because I think as great as AI is, and I've won a $24 million contract by using ChatGTP to write the whole thing, is yes, it can happen. I've done it. Procurement Sciences has done it. A lot of people have done it with it. But garbage in, garbage out. You have to know what to put in and what to put out. And I really feel badly for government evaluators, because they are evaluating proposals that are now beautifully written, nicely developed. Like the contractors are able to now step up their A game. Small businesses can now write proposals just as good as the large businesses, which I think is very good from a level set perspective, right? Like the smaller businesses can be just as competitive right now. But now we've got to kind of weed through what's the BS in all of this and what is the truth. And so trying to be able to kind of sift through that is kind of like the new challenge that we have. But isn't it a great challenge to have right now, is that the more qualified people are actually going to be able to come out on top in the end. So
Yeah, for me in the army land, right? Like I still serve, and so some of the tools and the technology that gets rolled out or that is coming out, I ultimately may touch or may have to use, and you know, at the end of the day, the stuff that you're doing as a contractor in the business and things you're going through as a contractor need to be great because it's affecting actual people, right? It's just not,
Yep.
dollars coming in. You're actually affecting people, and so that a lot of people don't get that and don't understand that, and it's like, oh, we need to write this proposal, we need to respond to this so we can, we can make this money, and sometimes it that doesn't really work, right?
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, it depends. AI is gonna, it's not going away, it's gonna be here. There's people that want to work with it, and people that will continue to want to work with it, but the government's not stupid, right? They're going to develop their own, was this written with AI, right? If a school system could do it, and to see if a paper was written by AI, then the government definitely can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, those are really good last thoughts here, and I always try to make sure that when I work with a customer, I emphasize the fact that are we really serving the end customer? And a lot of the work we do is on the DoD side. So are we serving? Are we doing this in service of the warfighter to make their lives easier, better, safer? So I think that's a really good last parting thought for us to kind of keep in mind as we bid on these government contracts. So, some key takeaways as we kind of wrap up today's episode on readiness would be GCC tools are helpful, but they don't fix them. They don't configure themselves. You still need to kind of plan. You still need to kind of understand the environment, and also evaluate your MSPs. If they don't speak compliance fluently, then that's a liability issue, and things that you might want to evaluate as you consider who to hire and who to keep on if you're in the GovCon industry here, and building your foundation right from day one, right? First impressions last. Um, Again, going cheap, going free, going the easy way may not be good if you're trying to scale. And I think sometimes hindsight is 2020. People don't think about scaling and growing when they first start off, but always kind of think about the end game in place, as you're setting up your business. And then, AI too. It can really kind of help support and help you along the way, but it's never going to replace those critical decision making questions and things and judgment that you kind of need to meet. So, Dondre, last parting thoughts as we close out this really fun packed episode.
Don't be scared to get your hands dirty, right? All the way up to the CEO. A lot of people, especially CEOs, right, that aren't small businesses, that aren't the chief everything officers, the people that like to delegate, right? The assessment team is going to want to know what you know, what your C-suite level knows, all the way up the supply chain, because you guys are the targets, right? CEOs, your CFOs, your CT, well, maybe not CTOs, but you guys are you're the target. You're literally the targets, right? You got the red circle paint on your back, the or bullseye paint on your back, because you are moving so fast. You're clicking through emails, and you might click the wrong email. And if you don't have the right security items in place to
Yeah,
mitigate, just to quarantine it or lock your account out or just basic things, right? That's why we have supply chain issues, and CMMC is here to fix it. There are some MSPs, there are some companies out there that are really good at what they're doing, and they can be better at what they're doing. And the DibCAC, think about it. It's just like being a doctor, right? There's only 78 people, I think, or organizations in there now that are actually register to help you, right? And that says a lot, because there's hundreds of thousands of people who resell and or sell cybersecurity to the government, but they're not on that list,
yeah,
right? They're not there because it is actually difficult to become one of those registered practitioner organizations, or one of the C3 PAOs that can actually perform third party assessments on your organization. And not everyone can speak the language, but not everyone's good at it, right? There are thousands of BD people out there, right? And some of them are just not okay. And then some of them are on Mount Rushmore. So that's what I got.
Oh, well, I'm flattered. I appreciate that. And, this has been a great conversation. Thanks so much for coming, and it concludes our episode on Don't Get Got. So please subscribe to our podcast and stay tuned for new episodes every Wednesday. And we are changing the lineup and the format for our podcast here in the second part of this year. So stay tuned for more details on that. And thank you, Dondre, for joining us and sharing your thoughts here today with us.
Thank you for having me, Todd.
Absolutely. Thanks again, intellectuals, for listening here today. And remember, you have to think big to win big. Be an intellectual. And until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of possibilities.